Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale, and boy is it raining loud outside. I hope you guys can't hear that. I'm sure you probably can't, but enough of the weather report. Today, I have a really cool deck that I want to share with you guys. It's something that you've seen similar decks to this before in the past, but this one is special and somewhat new, at least to me, because it has so many good counters. It's a great counter deck using the Hog as your win condition. Now, we can use Lightning or Fireball for our big direct damage spell in this deck. I'll be showing both variations in today's video. Basically, the difference between Lightning and Fireball has to do with Three Musketeers. If you think you're going to be going up against more Three Musketeer heal decks, you want to use Lightning. If you think you're going to be going against more Three Musketeer decks without heal, use Fireball. Obviously, Fireball better against non-heal Three Musketeer decks, and Lightning better against heal Three Musketeer decks because they can't be healed after the lightning hits them. Now, otherwise, we have the Tornado and the Tombstone in the same deck today. That's something that you rarely see, but it's really works well in the current meta. With all the bridge spam, you can activate your tower against that incoming Hog Rider or the Miner, but you can also stop the Battle Ram, stop the Bandit, and stop the PEKKA with the Tombstone. Those are three incredibly popular cards in the meta right now. Even Inferno Dragon, Guards, and Tombstone do well at kind of clogging up the lane, making things happen much slower for your opponent, preventing that Inferno Dragon, that PEKKA, that Bandit, that Battle Ram from hitting your crown tower. So that is going to be the goal of having both the Tombstone and the Tornado in the deck. Of course, Tornado also synergizes incredibly well with the Executioner. So the Executioner is going to be your splash damage killer, or your splash unit killer. Splash damage is what he's putting out in this deck. You also have the Log, of course. If you don't have Log, you can sub in Zap. Zap actually does a little bit better in this deck with the Hog on offense and a little bit worse on defense, stopping one of those big pushes, taking out the Princess, stuff like that. So in today's video, we're going to be doing maybe about 3 or 4 previously recorded replays, because you guys know I'm a little self-conscious about playing and commentating, at least providing a high level of commentary while I'm playing. So I recorded these live. I had just won. Okay, so I played 4 grand challenges with a few variations of this deck. This is the variation that I was the most pleased with. I tried Valkyrie in a couple of the decks. I like Valkyrie a lot, but if you put her in this deck in place of archers, that's where I played her, you can run into trouble against air decks. Against Lava Loon, even though it's not incredibly popular right now, you're going to really struggle without archers. Valkyrie's really good because you can put her as a lane blocker against a Three Musketeer split. And Valkyrie can be used against Graveyard too, so it's definitely a close choice there, but I like archers because archers are just so good to split in the back when you have nothing else to play. They're a really good counter against Graveyard, which is probably the 3rd most popular win condition in the game right now, so I'm gonna go narrowly with archers over Valkyrie, and I like that they can take down balloons and stuff like that. So here you can see the guards are just so beautiful against a PEKKA, right? I mean, guards shut down PEKKA because they take 6 swings of the PEKKA's sword to kill. So guards, I feel like after the nerf to Goblin Gang, taking away one of those goblins, and with the emergence of the Bandit Battle Ram combos and PEKKA, I feel like guards all of a sudden are actually preferable, especially defensively, to a Goblin Gang. Just my own personal preference, but I still like Goblin Gang better in like a bait deck where you want to make sure you're baiting out your opponent's log. But other than that, I actually prefer guards now, to believe it or not. We started seeing a lot of guards in CCGS, really in all 3 regions that we covered: Latin America, North America, and the European brackets, I guess. We saw a lot more guards towards the end of the tournament after those balance changes hit. So I do think guards are actually a really solid play right now in the meta defensively. So we've talked a bit about all the cards. You guys already know how to play the Hog Rider. You know how to synergize the Hog Rider with the Executioner in back of it. After a successful defense, you can run a really powerful counter push. So against this PEKKA control deck, we did pretty well. Let's go ahead and move on to a little bit more of an aggressive opponent so you guys can get a feel. This is from my last grand challenge. So I said I did 4 grand challenges. I got 1 12 win, 2 10 wins, and a 9 win, which is pretty good for yours truly, okay? I usually probably average about, I don't know, depending on the deck I'm using, I guess is what I average. But for the first time I picked up this deck, I was really happy with those results. Having a 2 10s and a 12 for me is really good. So I imagine some of you who are much better than me out there will have more success with a deck like this, especially in tournament level standard where you're running into bridge spam everywhere. Try this deck out. I'm telling you, even some of the pros who might be watching, I would suggest trying this deck out and messaging me if you have success with it so I can bring you on and show even better replay content. Anyway, let's get to this next match here. We're playing against an aggressive opponent who has a bridge spam deck, a couple little tweaks to it. He's playing Wizard, he's playing Balloon. So it's an interesting deck, but you're going to see how I'm really able to shut it down here with this deck. So a little bit late on those guards and bad placement. I should have put the guards right on the bandit there. I'll try to point out as many of my mistakes as possible, and Lord knows I make a lot of them in these matches. A couple really big ones coming up in one of the replays coming up after this. But anyway, when you don't know what to play in this deck, you have a few plays that you can use. I wouldn't necessarily drop a hog just randomly at the bridge with this deck. It's not a hog cycle deck. Think of it more as a defensive control deck, and the hog is like your counter push weapon. So what I'd rather do is just play a Tombstone or play a, what's the other play? Oh, a split archers in the back. So splitting archers in the back and Tombstone are also acceptable, solid opening moves. So here I have a good prediction log, able to take out that skeleton army and get a hit or two with that hog rider. And look at that lightning value. That's the benefit of playing lightning. Obviously, I'm playing lightning in this replay versus fireball in the previous replay. Lightning, you can get great value. I took out a bandit, I took out a wizard, and I got damage on the tower. That's the type of play that can shift the momentum in a match into your favor. So definitely a huge fan of lightning in some situations. However, in other situations, lightning might just sit in your hand the whole match. You might not have a good opportunity to play it. That's why I think at the end of the day, I think I prefer fireball. Coincidentally, I had more success. Both of my 10 wins were with the fireball as well. I think this challenge replay was my 8th win from the 9-win challenge. So, for what it's worth, guys, anecdotal and a small sample size, so don't put too much weight into it. Look at this push in the left, guys. It's a Valkyrie Battle Ram skeleton army. I'm able to totally shut it down using the Executioner and the Tornado. Executioner Tornado is still an incredibly strong defensive combination. Now remember, guys, if you're playing against a hog deck, the first hog, use the Tornado. Then every hog after that, you can use Tornado or Tombstone, whatever's in the cycle. The Tombstone, placed correctly, and an activated King Tower will kill the hog. So once you have an activated King Tower, you can make a 3-for-4 elixir trade whenever you feel like it with either the Tornado or the Tombstone. So now let's go ahead into a match again. Oh, Consti says, wow, I gave him a real hard time with this deck. So if you're looking for another hog deck, maybe use that deck. I felt like I couldn't leave that up in chat without letting you guys see what the deck was. So let's hop into another match here. And this match, I think, was against another kind of interesting deck, if I remember correctly. It might be a bait deck, or it might be, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it was a furnace deck. Okay, so he opens up with a furnace here. I decide to just get a fireball value there. As soon as he sees the fireball, he tries to punish me in the lane, and then he uses arrows. I guess he figured I was going to go with a goblin gang or something, or a skeleton army there. However, it was a wasted arrows. I was able to use my log and then my archers to really only get like one swing from him onto my tower with those barbarians. So here comes, and by the way, guys, this deck works great against elite barbarians too. So if you're in that trophy range where elite barbarians are everywhere, use this deck as well. It's incredibly strong against elite barbarians with the Tombstone, the guards, and the log. So here I'm going to use an Executioner. I didn't really have a great answer for those goblins, so he's going to have to answer my Executioner coming down his lane. Executioner is one of those cards that always has to be answered. Otherwise, you're asking for like 800 or so damage at tournament level standard onto your King Tower, and nobody wants that. So while it's not the best counter to goblins, it forced him to have to use an Ewiz or Barbarians, whatever he just used there. I was too busy blabbing to you guys. So this is important, guys. I'm playing my guards in back of my hog there because I knew he only had Ewiz in his hand to counter my hog push. So my guards are going to be able to kill that Ewiz. Then I force him to use arrows, and check that out. Arrows are not going to do anything against guards. Well, they're going to do something, but they're going to live. They're going to live to see another day, to do more damage, to tell another tale. I don't know. I'm famous for getting my my analogies wrong. So here, I think this is my biggest glaring stupid mistake that I made during this entire, just a finger slip, and I get absolutely no value there. Why was I even using a fireball against a cannon, a solo cannon anyway? Well, it's because I wanted to get some chip damage, and I know that he was going to play, or I saw that he was going to play a useless cannon, knowing I didn't even have Hog in the cycle. So I figured, I'll just come at him with a fireball. Who cares, right? I'll take that value, even though it's not a smart play on the surface. However, everything was ruined when I didn't even hit the tower with a fireball. So you can see there, I actually did a good move, and I had a preemptive fireball play. I was able to take out those barbarians and get a really strong push against his tower. So at this point, I'm going to make sure I place my tombstone very high because I know he has fireball. I don't want him to take out my tombstone with that fireball. He gets a lot of damage on this push. The executioner was not the smartest placement or play by yours truly there. My second big mistake of this match. However, now I know I can basically just fireball cycle him out. Unfortunate fireball, I already let it go as a kind of a predictive play, and he placed that furnace just after the fact. Darn it. But this time I'm able to shut down his hog. He uses arrows again, kind of haphazardly there. I'm not a big fan of using predictive arrows when he knows I don't have anything that's even that the arrows will kill in my deck. I have archers, I have guards, so why is he sending in the predictive arrows? I'm not sure exactly. It's probably just a bad play. In hindsight, he probably realized that, because even if I play guards or archers, it's just not how you want to be spending 3 elixir. So anyway, I'm able to get the tower down to 222 damage. At this point, all I need to do is cycle to my fireball, and I have this game in the bag. I just want to be careful, make sure I don't let him get a fireball hog onto my tower. And thankfully, it wasn't pretty, but we got the victory. So let's move on to the next match here. The next match, I think, was an interesting deck. Yes, it was a really cool, this guy, El Patron, played a pretty interesting bait deck. In this deck, again, does really well against pretty much any deck, bait decks especially. So he sends in the miner. I could have activated my king tower with that miner placement. It was a little bit off by him if I had tornado in hand, but I didn't, unfortunately. So I see the princess and I see the miner, and I think he's probably playing some sort of a bait deck with miner, like a miner bait. So I want to be careful of my executioner. I don't want to provide any rocket value, because at this point I'm going to assume he's probably playing rocket in this deck. However, I want to say that I never find out. I don't think he used his 8th and final card, so I am going to assume, because I never gave him that rocket value, that it was a rocket there. So a wasted fireball by yours truly. Honestly, I thought the hog would go for the Inferno Tower there. I thought I would take down the Inferno Tower with a hit of the hog, and the hog bypasses the Inferno Tower, thankfully. And here I'm going to log this Goblin Barrel because I don't want that Executioner to be distracted by all those goblins. He has to take down those minions from the minion horde as well. He does a good job of doing so. This time, he stays alive. Whoa, that Executioner, man. He stays alive to take down that miner, or help take down the miner. Another good use for the Tombstone, if you're in a bind, is you can place it before the princess is locked onto your tower, or after the princess is locked onto your tower. Either way, and the skeletons will kill the princess. It's a 3-for-3 trade if the princess locks onto your tombstone, but it's still in a bind. That's another way you can use the tombstone in this deck. So here I used the Hog Rider knowing that he had the Inferno Tower in cycle. I basically just wanted to bait out that Inferno Tower. It's a 4-for-5 trade in my favor, so I'll take that when I had nothing else obvious to play. So I'm going to use Tornado here, get some of these goblins in with the minions, and that was a really nice tornado if I do say so myself. My opponent agrees, and I'm able to really negate what could have been a really strong push in the minion horde and the Goblin Barrel there. So he uses a defensive miner. Don't like that play. I'm able to get another good value log here, getting that miner into 1-shot or 2-shot range for my crown tower and taking out the princess. Here again, I play the guards with my Hog Rider because I know he has the Inferno Tower. The guards hopefully will distract that Inferno Tower long enough for my Fireball and the Hog to take down the Inferno Tower. Again, you can see how well this match is going. I have an answer really for everything my opponent is going to to do. At this point, I play my executioner, a little bit closer to the bridge there. That way he won't be distracted by the miner. I take down that minion horde, and now I'm getting very close to spell cycle range on this tower. All I really need to do is get a hit or two with the hog or cycle 3 fireballs, and I have 3 minutes to do so because we're in tournament level standard. So I'm just going to reload here. I'm going to be patient. There's no need. If you're if you're playing a deck like this where you have a really nice advantage, I'm going to use my log there. There's no need to rush things at the end. And I see people do that needlessly from time to time. They'll rush things when they have the lead just because it's overtime. Just because it's overtime doesn't really mean anything. All it means is that you can't come down from a deficit if you lose a tower. So you have to be careful not to lose a tower. But if you have the lead, just play smart defense. You mean trust yourself not to screw things up. So here I'm going to use a log, and I miscalculate. I thought that a fireball, I guess I'm too used to ladder there. So I thought the fireball would end things here, and I had to be really careful. It doesn't end things. 45 damage left on that tower, HP left on that tower, and I think he still might have rocket. So I can't let the miner get a couple hits on. Luckily, I'm able to save myself and cycle back to the log there, but that could have been dangerous. So pick up the victory there. Let's show one more live match replay. Is that a oxymoron? I guess it is a little bit, but let's show one more replay here. And this was another interesting deck that I came across. It was, what the heck was it? Like some sort of a Prince, was it like a Prince PEKKA deck? We'll see in a second here, but a good opening move is always just splitting archers. Another reason why I like archers in this deck, a little bit preferable to the Valkyrie. And he starts out with a Prince in the back. Interesting opening play by him. I'm going to go ahead and play a Hog Rider in the opposite lane because I know I have so many answers to the Prince in this deck. It's beautiful. I played the guards a little bit too far back there. I was trying to save that archer, but that was kind of a silly move on my part. I do save the archer, however. Now I'm going to be forced to play the executioner against the Valkyrie here. I really didn't have another good answer. So executioner will have to be answered in the left lane by him. I think he uses an ice golem, which is actually a pretty decent counter to an executioner. Okay, I stand corrected. He uses ice golem later on, but look at that, guys. I'm able to take down that witch with a fireball. That's great value. So yeah, it was a weird deck. It was like an off-meta witch prince deck. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that off-meta deck, but it's interesting. It's fun to play from time to time. Look at how big of a push he can get going there in this deck, though. He has a giant coming at me in the left, and pretty soon he's going to have... When I see the giant, I attack the opposite lane with the hog. This deck is really strong defensively, but one thing about it is I can't stop like a big... Night Witch, Witch, Prince, Valkyrie push behind a giant. I can do pretty well against it with Tornado Executioner and Log and stuff like that and Tombstone, so it can really handle these big golem decks as well. But I always want to make sure I send the hog in the opposite lane as you would a hog cycle deck. Just try to mitigate those huge giant pushes coming behind a giant, no pun intended. So here I am. I know every card in his deck right now. I get a hit or two with that executioner. I'm feeling pretty good about this match, even though he did do a little bit of damage to my left tower. So I'm just going to come at him with a hog here. I thought that he would place a giant behind that king tower. Now I put him in the awkward situation of having a prince in front of the giant, at least for the time being. Is he going to be able to get that giant ahead with all those skeletons coming in? Again, it just shows what a good job those Tombstone skeletons can do to really, you know, stymie a big push like this. I'm easily able to shut it down at this point using my executioner and my tornado, and then I'll put guards on that giant, and look at that, man. Like, he didn't get to my tower, and he didn't even kill my Tombstone with that huge, ginormous push. Unfortunately, I couldn't cycle to the log fast enough to get it down for that skeleton army, but at this point, I feel pretty good about this. He gives me more fireball value with that wish placed in front of that tower, and really, this is just like textbook defense here with this deck. The poor guy can't get anything done. What he should do at this point is, try to get a really big push going behind this giant, but I'm making it tough for him. I'm pressuring him with the hog. I'm not giving enough time to reload, and eventually I get that tower down to 4 HP. This is another time I miscalculate the ending. I'm not BMing by saying good game before the game ends, guys. I just keep miscalculating my damage. Again, I've been playing too much ladder here, but it's okay. I'm able to use my guards, distracting that Inferno tower, and finally cycling back to the log. So guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Huge shout out to my YouTube partner, Bren Chong. Check out his information in the description below. Show him some love. He's a great guy, does a lot for the community. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, take care, guys.